Welcome to the salon today. We're here at Little's Haircut Factory giving you 3 quick tips on how to make your French and your Dutch braids just a little bit better. See you in a second. Okay, so tip number 1, making sure your kiddo's head, your mannequin's head, whoever you're practicing on or doing your braids on, making sure that their head is chest height. If you've got your mannequin way up here, you've got about T-Rex arm's length to grab any hair, and it's gonna make probably tough for a good braid. Or if you have them way down here, you're also not gonna have enough movement in your arms to grab the right pieces. So tip number 1 is making sure that your child is chest height with you before you start their braid. I always say having them have something to look at while you're braiding or something to do is great. Keeps them busy and kind of keeps them from yelling at you for messing with their hair. Tip number 2, a lot of parents know how to braid already. They know how to do a French and a Dutch braid, but they have one issue, and the issue is that their braids are loose. Here's my guess on how that's happening. You're doing your braid, you're doing a great job, you're picking up all your pieces where you're supposed to be, like so. Keep going. You've worked for 20 minutes to try to get the perfect braid for your kiddo for school. It's looking good, and then you put it down to get it ready to tie, and it's super loose. It's got way too much movement to it. It's not going to last all day at school for them. Here is tip number 2 on how to help that, and this is probably the biggest one I hear from parents that are trying to braid. So your tip 2 is to keep the back of your hands or your palms, whatever way you're braiding, make sure they don't really leave their head. So this is going to be a French braid. If you're doing your normal French braid, you never want your pieces to really leave the head, and you never want your hands to really leave the head. You don't want to give too much space. That way your braid sits on their head really tight. And as you're adding in your pieces, whether you're doing a French braid or a Dutch braid, it's important to keep tightening as you go. Like so. And then you've got a much tighter braid that really can't move around throughout the day. So that is tip number 2, probably the biggest tip I have. Number 3 is when you are doing any kind of braid, once you get down to the bottom of their neck, if their head is here and you are up here trying to do a braid, let's just say we've got our braid started and we're getting down to like the very bottom. If you're up here doing it and you're pulling the braid towards you as you go, same thing as our tip number 1. Tip number 2 is you're gonna put it down and then you're gonna lose all that tightness that you worked so hard to do. So tip 3 is to have them look down as you go along the back of their head. Whether you're doing French or Dutch braids, it's important to make sure that no matter what you're doing, you're tightening it as you go and you're getting it really close to the back of their head. And that will spare you from big old gaps at the back. That'll spare you from having it loose as opposed to tight all the way through here. All right, those are our top 3 tips. I hope those help you guys. Thanks.